So welcome back, everyone. I'm here with Nicki, and Nicki and I connected on a Dr. Joe Dispenza week-long retreat, which I think we both found absolutely life-changing. And it was really
Yeah.
beautiful to connect with someone who'd also been on a whole cancer journey. And Nicki lives in South Africa, but we've managed to keep in touch for coming up to 2 years. So it's really
Yeah,
beautiful
that's right.
to have her here today. And she's just been hosting her own healing seminar over in South Africa a few weeks ago. So welcome, Nicki. So great to see you. You're looking really well.
Thanks, Rachel. Lovely to chat to you. And I've got your book. Very
Woohoo.
excited about your book. Yes, yes.
Thank
I've
you.
almost finished reading it. But yeah, I mean, we met at Dr. Joe and we've kind of just kept connecting because we've got similar things that we like to chat about and we've journeyed through, which is amazing. So yeah,
Yeah, thank you. And it is
brilliant.
that thing of like, I don't think anyone really understands until they go through something like this. I mean, it's just like
Mm,
you can try to understand for somebody, but you can't. And that's the connection, I think, with that kind of the cancer community. You end up kind of really making lifelong
mm.
friends through who are, with people who are on a similar path to you. So, got my book. My book's title is Cancer as an Initiation.
Yeah.
Do you relate to that? Did you feel like your cancer journey was quite an initiation or a wake up call?
It was a definite wake up call. I mean, so mine happened 13 years ago. I had stage 3 breast cancer. I went through the chemo, the radiation, had a mastectomy, did all the mainstream things, and I thought, okay, cool, done. I'm done with all the mainstream stuff, and I'm all good now. 9 years later, I had a recurrence. Um, and that was the biggest wake up call because it was kind of like I never thought it would come back. And I didn't process a lot of the stuff that I should have in hindsight. And I realized that there was so much more growing that needed to be done, change that needed to happen in my life. And it was a huge wake up call. And like you said at the end, it's like it is a gift because you realize that you wouldn't have changed without it, right? You wouldn't have done half the things that you did. I didn't do half the things before that. And I've just grown so much since then, and in such a great way. I remember a friend of mine saying to me after my initial breast cancer, and she said to me, she said, Nix, would you have changed anything in the last 4 years? I think it was 4 years afterwards. And I said, no. And she said, you're crazy. Would you
Yeah.
have gone through breast cancer again? And I'm like, okay, look, I wouldn't have gone through it again, but I said I needed it in my life to make a change. And she was horrified, absolutely horrified. And I said, but it's taken me to places I would never have gone to. My relationships, my family, just every aspect of your life, greater spirituality, just seeking other answers to other things and knowing that there's more out there than traditional stuff.
Yeah.
And, we're not these lonely beings on this planet. You kind of start looking a little broader and you start being aware of things, and then you kind of start going, okay, okay, I don't know where I was living back then, you know you
Yeah.
kind of think, I can't believe I ever thought like that, or like I
Yeah.
was so narrow-minded almost.
Yeah.
So yeah, I grew a huge amount, and I'm still growing, and I'm still exploring, and still, like you, trying to find things and try different things. And I get excited when I come across some other natural healing and beautiful stories of people who've healed. And I just know there's more out there you
Yeah.
know
I mean, for me, I decided, it's like when you get the stage 4 diagnosis and you're like, this could be it. I just
yeah.
decided I was going to see life as an adventure. It's just like, you know what? I don't know how long I've got. I'm just going to have fun and I'm going to have an adventure and even
Yeah.
see the treatment as an adventure. Like when I went for my surgery, I was like, this is going to be a retreat. This is my little 3-day retreat in hospital. I went with my bag of smoothies and, it's like make the most of every opportunity. But I think that's it. It's like,
Yeah.
and you're ultimately we're being faced with death, aren't we? Because
Yeah.
they never want to give any kind of like, this is going to work, we're hoping it will, these treatments that we're offering you, but there's never, but then there's no guarantees in life. No one knows how
Nice.
long they've got. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's kind of one of those beautiful gifts of like, yeah, I'm going to really live my life and, you know, make it more joyful and make it more exciting. And yeah, like you say, get really excited when you find a new thing that's like, woo, you know, what's this going to do? And let's try this. And
Yeah.
yeah. So, so you did all the allopathic stuff kind of first time. Second time, did you do any of that stuff or did you decide to go totally natural? What was
No,
your
I did a little bit of it. So, like I said in my talk that I had last week, is like, I never want to say to people, take one path and not the other. You've got to be ready for it. And most of my treatment was very integrative. So I chose to pick, if I looked at mine as a pie chart, I would go, you know, oncologist is a tiny wedge, and I will go there and listen. And I will make some decisions as to what I want to do. And then the rest of it was all about mind, body, spirits, energy, diet. You know, it was all those other things and all those amazing practitioners that I used second time around that I realized were really important. And actual fact, I have to show you this book that really changed my life. I
yeah.
don't know if you've read,
Yes, I have. Yeah.
I mean, Kelly Turner's book on radical remission. I have referred so many people to this book, and that was a game changer for me because I realized that there was hope.
Yeah.
And you know, when you've got a stage 4 diagnosis, they say, well, it's terminal. And you go, well, okay, that means I'm never going to come out of this, right? And then you're facing the death, you're facing what am I going to do and whatever. And you're almost prepared to try anything because you kind of like, I've got nothing to lose, right?
Yeah.
They telling me I've got to do this and I'm going to die. And then you going, I'm not going to do that, right? And when I read this and realized she'd spent 10 years interviewing 1,500 people, doing her PhD on this, and people who were stage 4, you know, what did they do? And this was like my gospel. I was like, okay, there's 10 things in here.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to take these 10 things and I'm going to use them. And I realized, you know what the epiphany was? That actually only 2 of them were things that doctors could help me with. So it was radically changing your diet and changing, you know, using herbs and supplements, and maybe clearing emotional stuff, either with, you know, EFT or maybe a psychologist, but I think the other alternatives are better. But I realized that those are the only 2 things that the mainstream doctors could help me with. The rest was up to me.
Yeah.
And that was the scary thing. It was kind of like, okay, next, this is you got to put in the work here.
Yeah.
Like the first time around, I was like, okay, oncology done, tick, tick, radiation done. And I walked out of there, they ring the bell and they go, woo, you're all done. And I'm like, go back to my normal life. And it was like, that was
Change
not, that wasn't it. Exactly. Exactly. And I almost, when I go near a chemo room, I want to walk in with this book and go, guys, you might want to look at this, because it was, and a friend of mine referred it to me, and I thought, oh, yeah, I might read it. And I read through the just the contents page, and just those 10 things. I thought, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
spiritual stuff, taking control of your life, you know, changing things, getting rid of emotional trapped stuff, you know, all that stuff. I was like, I can do this.
Yeah.
You know, and then I started on my path of going, okay, I'm going to put all these things in my life. I'm going to do the diet and the whatever, but that is super, super important. And I also started getting into meditation. I did a TMI course, and because mine started at lockdown, the beginning of lockdown, I found out, you know, I'd had a recurrence. And so I had a lot of time on my own and at home, and which was good, and it was scary because I couldn't get out and do stuff and see people. But actually, it was great. I cocooned myself. I did this TMI course online, and then I started meditating, started doing a lot of sort of breath work, just spiritual time on my own. Read this, and then I just realized that actually I can do this. And there's no silver bullet to healing, right? There's not one thing.
No, because people ask you like,
Because
"Oh, what did you do?" I'll just do what you did, but it's like we're all different, aren't we? So you have to create your own package,
exactly,
and that's what's
exactly,
great about that book, because she gives you like the 10. I mean, I've listed it. I have, you know, mentioned that book in my book, and I've listed the 10 things, and it's like they're all doable, and they're not really expensive.
No, and they're not expensive, and that's it. So actually, at my talk, I said to people, and my practitioners were there, and I put up a slide and I said, these are 10 things you can do for free.
Yeah.
And only about 8 people in the audience actually had cancer issues. The rest of them were just, they had autoimmunes and they were diabetic and whatever. And I said to them, but you know what? Take these 10 things and you won't get into that critical stage of having a diagnosis like you and I.
Yeah.
So if I was trying to say to people, if you start living like that, you won't even get there. Because, I mean, if you read a book, which you can read quickly, it's easy stuff.
Yeah.
But
And
we
it is
just
about
we just
prevention,
forget
isn't
to
it?
do them.
Well, we
Um,
don't prioritize them. That's the thing, isn't it? We don't prioritize exercise or fresh air or, eating well, because life makes it really easy to just sit at home in front of your computer eating crap food that's cheap.
exactly.
So you
Exactly.
have to put the work in, and you have to do your research, and you have to make, learn to make so many different dressings for my salad because it's the dressing that makes your salad taste better. It's the little things
Exactly.
like that. Just, yeah, I mean, and it's not hard. So yeah, I mean, I
But I
actually
suppose,
bought
yeah.
that book for most of my family members who were pressurizing me the first time round to do what the doctor said, and I was just like, no, I'm not
Mm,
doing what the doctor said, and you need to read these books, this book, because it's. And I sent a copy to everyone. I just
yeah.
think, and they all kind of went, oh, now we get why you don't want to do what the doctors are saying. And then I changed my mind and did do what the doctors. But
Well,
we're
I
allowed.
mean, that's why it's not like you said, there's no silver bullet and everybody's different. And sometimes people go completely natural and then have to have some intervention. So you kind of you've got to juggle it, but you've got to have both. I just feel like people who go like I did the first time around, I was like, if I advise people now, you've got to do those things and maybe dabble in that other stuff. I don't know, but I mean, you can't stick on mainstream stuff and just hope that it's going to sort you out, because I think a lot of it is about changing from within and actually, finding what's blocking you and what's caused this. I mean, I think the chemo is just a band-aid, you know, and I needed to get to the root cause of it. And I had to do a lot of work with my energy healer and releasing emotional stuff and figuring out why this happened to me and why am I going through this. And I don't know. The spiritual growth from me was great. And I actually started reading a lot of near death experience books. I started with Anita Majani.
Yeah.
A friend of mine recommended that, and I put it off for ages. It's interesting. I didn't read it. Someone gives you a book and you're like, put it on my shelf. I was like, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I was the same. It took me ages to read that book.
I
Yeah.
know. And then I read that and I went. It was like an epiphany. I went, oh my gosh, okay.
Yeah.
So that affected my feeling about death and the fear of death. And it was like, I started then listening to a lot of near-death things on YouTube. There's a guy called Alex who does this Next Level Soul. I don't know if you listen to any of his stuff.
Yeah.
And I get hooked on it. He interviews a lot of people who've had near-death experiences, who've died from hectic trauma and come back after 20 minutes, and what they've been through, what their visions are for life going forward. And I mean, I'm hooked on those because you get more and more every time you listen to those kind of stories.
Yeah.
And that also, from the fear perspective, I went, okay, well, if I die, because no one really knows. But listening to those, you have some insight, right? And they
Yeah.
can't all be wrong because they're similar stories. And you listen to that and go, okay, right. So actually, Anita Majani's comment was, as long as my message to people who are still on earth is kind of like, just speak from the heart, just always, have joy in your life, laugh, just be happy, give off positive, you know, emotions, just, all that positive stuff. And you think, yeah, well, I know that kind of stuff, but you don't actually do it.
Yeah. I mean,
And
I don't think I knew what joy was until I had a cancer diagnosis, because I would be my New Year's resolution. I'm going to live in joy. And it's like, I don't actually know what joy is. And it's remembering like being a child, skipping and
yeah,
dancing and that kind of being light. So I'm not taking life so seriously and getting caught in people's dramas and it's just like I don't do any of that anymore. It's like I don't want to know. It's none of my business. Just keep it over there.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because you're just getting yourself involved in all those negative frequencies that actually just pulls your frequency down. And then you're not resonating at that nice frequency you were at.
Absolutely.
And it's I mean, yeah, okay, I don't watch TV anymore and I kind of pick up on bits and pieces, but I'm like, if I can't affect it and I can't do anything about it, then I'm not getting involved in it. And I'd rather just give out good positive vibes, always keep thinking on the positive side and keeping my frequency up. Then I think that's important, and it's important for us to protect ourselves.
Yeah. And it is that
Because
thing,
I think
where attention goes, energy flows. And it's like if you're putting your attention on the
exactly.
negative or the news or all of that stuff, it's just like you're feeding it. So why not? One of the things Dr. Joe said is like, where are you putting your energy? You could be using it to heal yourself. And that really stuck with me. It's like, yeah, stop wasting it flicking through Facebook. It's like,
Exactly. And you know what? The other thing that stuck with me is, sorry, I think you can hear some lightning in the background. We're having a bit of a storm. Is remember he told us that story that he turned around and he said, you can actually almost trick your body into believing your reality. So what is reality? And then he would say, like, imagine if you watch a sad movie and you cry and you go, okay, I'm feeling that feeling. So I can feel it in my heart and I'm feeling emotional and I cry. But your body doesn't know whether that's your reality or whether you're watching a movie.
yeah.
So then I started doing the whole things where someone said, just watch these funny movies the whole time, just laugh because your body thinks you're engaging with people and laughing,
Yeah.
and it makes you realize that if you watch a scary movie and you go to bed with the scary stuff in your field and you're thinking about it and it's in your energy field, it becomes part of you, so all these scary things and the fear of this and the fear of that you're actually building it into your energy field. And it's like,
No
no, no,
way.
no,
No.
no, exactly. So I'm so careful about things that I watch
Me too.
and things that I engage in because I'm like, I don't even want my mind to start going into that kind of stuff
Yeah. Yeah.
because, as you say, it's like where your energy is, where your thoughts are is where your energy is, And
Absolutely.
that was Joe. And you and I both got that drummed into our head.
Yeah, and it's a big one, isn't it? It's like that, yeah, that our body doesn't know the difference. So show it the good stuff, keep it in that good
Exactly.
vibration. Yeah.
And
So
I
it's,
think
it's
it's
interesting. I don't think I'd realised or I'd forgotten that your diagnosis was at the start of all the COVID stuff, and so was mine. So, I saw that as like, this is perfect timing because I don't have to go to work and I
yeah.
can almost like lock down and do my meditation like you were and do all my healing stuff. And, for me as well, like people were freaking out because appointments were being cancelled and, everything was just all over the place with the medical system here. I don't know what it was like in South Africa. And I know
Yeah.
every time one of my scans got cancelled, I just went, thank you, more time for healing, more time to visualize those cells getting well, and all of that stuff.
Exactly. Exactly.
Was it the same for you
It
over
was
there?
the same for me. It was so bizarre because the Thursday, I think lockdown started on the 28th, right? Was it a Thursday?
I can't
I think
remember.
it was Thursday. So we had packed up in the office and I've been working in this office for 2 years and my stress levels were off the charts. And I realized that was one of my main,
Yeah,
that's another thing that people ask is like, just reduce your stress because the stress and the combination, I'm an A type, I wanted everything, and I just had to let things go and just not be so stressed. And the day I packed up my box in the office to move home, for the start of lockdown, I got a phone call from the oncologist. And it's interesting, I'd put off my test because my tumor markers had gone up in December. And I said, oh, my sister-in-law's coming, I'll do it in sort of February, blah, blah, blah. I'd put it off. And I had them done the week before lockdown stuff got announced. And then literally the day lockdown on that Thursday, she phones me. And she says, I need you in my office tomorrow. You
wow.
need an MRI, you need this, you need that. Your tumor markers are off the charts, like this. So I walked up to my boss and I said to him, I'm like, this is what's happened. Burst into tears and said, I'm leaving with my box. And it was so, I knew something was going on because I packed up my office like I was never coming back.
Yeah.
And I never went back.
Yeah.
And it was quite interesting because I like intuitively just packed everything for someone else to take over. I got everything organized. I think it was like that time period of like lockdown was kind of like, okay, we don't know how long this is going to take. So pack as if you're leaving on Noah's Ark, right? And like, you know, plan for everything to be different. And I think I just knew things were going to.
It's weird because I had the same kind of thing. I put all my courses and everything online just because that was all everyone's doing, you know. But like all my friends went to me, "Did you know this was happening? Because you got all your stuff online way before everyone else." And I was just like, I just follow my intuition, and my intuition was going,
Yeah.
you know, this is where we're going. Do this, do this. You know, I had no idea, but you know, it was very strange time. So I mean, I remember actually talking to other people at that week at Dr. Joe's, and the amount of people that had their cancer diagnosis at the beginning of 2020, and I do have a
Really?
little theory of like, did we as sensitive people absorb a lot of the fear that was in the energy field, and you know, were we meant to be transmuting this on behalf of the planet? I don't know, but I you know, when I thought about it, it just made sense to me that it's like, okay,
Yeah.
you know, there was a lot of fear out there. There were a lot of people who were really scared. And I wasn't one of them because I faced cancer. And I was just like, oh, here we go. It's just another thing we've got to work on healing, you
Yeah,
know?
exactly.
Yeah.
And could COVID be worse than cancer? Not really, because we'd faced the
Exactly. I
death.
was just like, yeah,
Stage
don't come at me
4.
with that stupid thing.
Yeah, exactly. Don't come with a mask and the this and the that, and or you might die. I'm like, well, I've already almost died, so I kind of been down that route.
And
I
for
know,
me,
and
like, here's the opportunity for the whole world to face death. You know, really make friends with death because it's
which I
coming
think
to
they
the
did.
door.
I think they did, and I must say, people will shoot me for this, but I think COVID was an amazing shift for the planet, and a lot of people changed how they act, they behave, they think, their life work balance, their relationships. People got divorced, people resigned. Like, you know, they really thought things, like it shifted stuff. And I think my biggest thing was when I did the meditation and stuff, and you sort of asking, we were chatting about like how did you stop those thoughts from getting into your head and that fear of getting there all the time, you know, and a lot of it was to do with the meditation, quietening time. Just I had a mantra that I kind of, as soon as the thoughts came in, I'd say the mantra and try and connect. And like Joseph says, you try and control your mind because you realize that rabbit hole, it
Yeah.
just goes.
As soon
And
as
you
you
know,
open
you've
your eyes in the morning, it's just like, you've got
I
cancer. What are you going to do
know,
about it?
I know, exactly. And I think he spoke about something where he said like 70,000 thoughts happen in a day, of which 90% of them the same thoughts from yesterday, and half of them aren't true because you kind of, you know, you're making stuff up and you realize that actually your thoughts are crazy.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, so if you can start being aware of too many thoughts and pulling it back and going, okay, let me breathe my way through this vagal nerve, calming down, let's just do some breath work, let's get this in perspective. And then you kind of like go, okay, I can deal with this, you
yeah,
know. Whereas I was always a fight flight person where I'd be like, A-type, suddenly I panic about things and I've my heart going and I don't listen to my body at all. I'd be running like a crazy thing. And then I'd stop and go, flip, I haven't eaten, haven't done this, haven't done that. I don't do that anymore.
yeah.
And now I'm like, as soon as I feel that feeling of that stress rising, I stop myself and I go, okay, let's just breathe through this. Let's breathe, let's think, let's go into nature, you know, just try stuff to stop that body going into that estate, which is so not healthy for me. And I think you're right, like lockdown gave us time to go and sit in the garden. I used to sit outside and I just lie in the sun and spend time with my kids. And I and it's part of my logo, my new thing called Thriving Beyond is a dandelion. And we were allowed to walk for, I think it was between 6 and 9 in the morning. They let us out like a bunch of mice. We'd like run around the streets, all crowding the streets, coughing all over each other. It was like crazy. Prams, like it was like a traffic jam up our road. And I remember trying to find some secluded roads where it was quiet and we could have our, you know, our 2 hours of walking. And I kept finding dandelions. I kept picking them and then looking against the sun and realizing that they were so fragile and so beautiful, but yet they can't control what happens. And you go and you blow them off, and these seeds rely on the wind, they rely on everything to take them to a different place. And I thought, I kind of related to that. I was kind of like, life's fragile, you know, And you can't control that kind of stuff, but you can control how you behave to things, and you can control, you know, what you look at and what you take on. And, you know, I think, yes, I kept finding these dandelions and Googling dandelions and how you can use every part of it for health purposes, and how beautiful they were. And people like were kicking them on the roadside as a weed. And I started getting so attached to them. I started bringing them home and putting them, you know, it was just, I think I just got in touch with nature, and I kind of went, wow, you know, like in this. And I posted something on my Instagram, which I never do. I'm hardly ever on Instagram. And I put this beautiful picture of a dandelion up, and I said, with all the chaos in the world, I picked up this beautiful, fragile dandelion, and I realized that they're just sitting there quietly, beautifully, just waiting for the wind to take them. And I just thought, it's so beautiful. And I started looking at nature differently. I started walking outside, and the trees and the lights and the shapes and the, you know, before I was just so in my, you know, hamster wheel of not being aware of stuff. You know, so I think lockdown was brilliant. Like you said, we just hibernated and found time to heal and be. And I think life doesn't allow people that nowadays.
No, well,
You know,
that's the thing. I mean, so many people are just like, this is amazing. You know, this is how life should be. Let's just all slow the fuck down and, you know, really take the time to smell the roses, smell the dandelions, whatever it is. It's kind of,
yeah.
yeah, I love that metaphor with the dandelion, because that's part of dandelion's such a good healer. It's really good for the liver. It's, you know, it's a
And my breast cancer came back in my liver and my bones, and I was like, that was such a symbol of that dandelion. I mean, I just kept picking them up, and I was like, it's obviously meant to be. And then I start, you know,
your
so
medicine.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And things just started falling into place when I became aware of things. I think, you know, like you suddenly you come across things, and it's not a coincidence,
No.
you know.
And I say to people, because, you know, like you said, you want to find out kind of, you know, what do you need to do to heal? Why did this happen? And, you know, people want to attach a story of like, oh, it's trauma, or it was sexual abuse, or it's, you know, whatever it is. And I'm like,
Mm,
you know what? You don't have to do any of that. Just life will show you what you need to unpeel. You know,
mm,
don't go digging around. Kind of like, I mean, I did that. I did so much like digging of, you know, like psychotherapy, and the, you know, why did I get cancer? And in the end, it's like, well, you just have it and live with it for a bit, and allow life to show you what you need to do to heal. So, you know, the fact that you got those beautiful
mm.
dandelions, it's just like, you know, for me, I was really drawn to the mistletoe, using mistletoe therapy, and got really into, you know, mistletoe as a plant, and it's a great anti-parasite kind of, it's on so many levels, even energetically, get rid of the parasites that are out there, you know, like the people who you need to get rid of.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's bigger than just that.
Just
What's the plant good for? You know, there's a
yeah,
whole big picture of
yeah.
those things, those, yeah. So wow. So I love
No,
that you had your mantra, and, you know, I had stuff stuck on the wall right by my bed. So the first thing I do is get my headphones and put Dr. Joe in. Do those blessing the energy centers first thing in the morning. And also for me, yeah, mantras and prayers and things right there, because it is that, for me, it was that moment of waking up and almost going, you know, this panic of like, and then, you know, we both talked a lot about how we love breath work. We've got really into breath work since, well, always
mm,
me, you know, doing yoga and stuff like that, but much more now, because you can just feel it changing your cells, can't you? That kind of really soaking your cells in the oxygen and all the breath retentions and all those things. It just feels like they're really working on all levels. So
yeah.
yeah, I
And you
mean,
can feel it. You know, you can feel it buzzing in your head, and like the breath is all we've got, right?
and it's
It costs
free.
nothing. It's free. Exactly. You and I always go, you know, like I'm in South Africa, I can't afford things in dollars and euros. And I'm like, oh, breath work is free. Excellent.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's important, is that people have the power themselves to be able to do this kind of stuff. You know, just including, and all my friends turn around and say, oh, I can't meditate for an hour, I can't do breath work. I said, you know what? You can do a 1 minute breath work, and you can just sit in bed before you wake up in the morning, and when you go to bed at night, and just find peace and just say a few things and just sort of get inside yourself, do like a body map, you know, and just feel like you feel your body. You know, we tend to like shove things in it and do things and make it function. And I was like that. I never listened to my body. And now I do. I do. Because I like my body says it wants to go to sleep. I like make an effort to go to sleep. Or if I'm sick, I go to bed.
Yeah.
You know, I never used to do that. So I think, and that was one of Kelly Turner's as well, as, you know, listening to your intuition, listening to your body, you know, kind of just finding peace. And yeah, I think just we forget to do that, right? Our lives get too busy.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never got back to the frenetic life I had before then. And obviously I'm, you know, not working full time, so I'm not, you know, but I do feel for people who are in this hamster wheel of got to work hard, got to make more money, got to sort the kids, the husband, the, you know, but you got to pull yourself away from that and go, okay, now I've got to, like, maybe not go out so much, maybe, you know, just take it down a level, because you can't find peace without that, you know. And I don't think you just give your body the time it needs to just, you know, find that peace. And without that, I mean, without me doing the TMI meditation during lockdown, I mean, my husband used to come into the room, I had a blanket over my head, and he knew when the blanket was over my head, you do not disturb. Because the kids would come in and be like, okay, mom's got the blanket, we better leave. You had a feather, didn't you used to have a feather?
Well, yeah, that was my moon time thing. Was like, it's mummy's moon time. Put my feather. I need peace and quiet. And yeah, I mean, for me, it was like, if the door's shut, you don't come in. That's why I'm doing you know, I'd have my headphones on, and obviously after Dr. Joe, we all get the blindfold as well, don't we, the eye mask.
Exactly.
My son sometimes comes in the morning, I'm sitting in front of my infrared lamp, naked, with my headphones and my eye mask on, doing my breath work, and he just walks in and walks out again. It's like,
but you know, when he'll take that into his life and go, that's the normal, and that's great, and that's lovely. Mom sits there naked in front of her lamp, and you know, it's all healthy stuff, you know, which is amazing, because I think we're teaching our kids to take on that kind of stuff.
yeah,
you know, which is important, because they're the new generation of enlightened light workers, hopefully, you know, and they've come into this world with a different perspective to us, and hopefully with the changing planet, they will evolve into lovely earth beings that we weren't, which we're hoping to be, you know.
We're moving into that. Yeah, it's going to be amazing seeing what the future's going to hold for, like, even medical treatments. There's all these amazing kind of, you know, all med beds and infrared crystal healing, all this stuff that's just, I keep seeing things, and it's like, wow, you know, different technologies that are going to support.
Exactly.
You know.
Yeah, and I think it's all coming out now, because, you know, people always saying that AI was, you know, we're not using AI for stuff, but actually a lot of astrologers and people have come up and said, listen, use it like it should be used, and it's allowing us to connect across the world like we never connected before. Look at you and I talking. We wouldn't have done this if we didn't have this. You know, cohesive meditations and healings that happen, that wouldn't happen without the technology. And I think there's a lot to be said for, you know, group cohesiveness.
They are raising the vibration. They are raising the vibration.
And stuff's getting out on YouTube that wouldn't have got out before. And, you know, we used to read stuff in books and nothing else, but now we've got access to this stuff. And I think healing is taking a whole different path. I mean, I honestly feel that, you know, people are looking at integrative stuff. I mean, crystals were always hokey pokey, right?
Yeah.
It's no longer that anymore. It carries a frequency. It's got a vibration, you know. Sound healing.
Sound baths, singing bowls, gongs, all these things. It's like, you know, they've proven that the, you know, crystal bowls can shatter cancer cells. It's like, so get yourself a crystal bowl. It's like,
absolutely. And I had this guy talking at my event who he's developed Rife machines, and that's also about frequency and resonance. You know, and he did a whole talk on it, and he was saying, well, how does an opera singer break a glass? It's all to do with frequency and resonance. And that's an example for people to realize that it's stuff that you can't see, but it's in the field and it's powerful. You know, we always look at our body and go, okay, we can heal this thing, but it's the other stuff. We're energetic beings, you know, and it's like energy around us, everything in the field. You know, I was reading in your book, when I actually opened up on that page earlier, and I was like, it can't be a coincidence that you were talking about EFT work and about TRE. And I went away with my cousin last weekend, and he'd had a lot of trauma, and he said, oh no, I've just done this TRE stuff. I was at an event on Thursday night, and I come across this woman, and she says, oh, I've had this trauma, and my friend here does TRE work. I was like, okay, universe, you're telling me. And it was like the fourth time I'd come across it, and I'd never known it before I read your book, right? And I'd known about EFT, but I'd never, so I chatted to this woman yesterday and said, so right, I'm coming for an appointment. You know, I think it's amazing because.
And it's another thing, once you've learned it, it's free. You can do it yourself. It's really easy. You know, it's not a difficult thing, but, you know, our minds tell it, oh, it's going to be too hard. And, you know, it's like, oh, you just let your body shake. You just, you know, I did a year-long trauma training after my all clear, because I realized that actually it's really stressful and traumatic being in the system of, you know, going through scans and all that kind of stuff. And it was amazing because it's just allowing the body to, it's not talking about it, it's allowing the body to just release that trauma. It's that book, you know, the body knows the score. The body knows how to heal. We just need to give it the opportunity to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that that portion in your book's really important, because I think people think that they can go to a psychologist and talk things through, and kind of like it's more than that.
Well, that's the story. You get really stuck in your story, just telling the same story over and over.
And then you become the victim, right? And then it's like you just end up turning the same stuff. And Kelly Turner's, I think, two of her points were emotional, releasing stuff and producing positive emotions. And it's like, how do you release the stuff? And the EFT, the TR, you know, it's important that we learn how to get rid of that trauma. My energy healer does past life clearing as well. So I knew that I had to go and see her for quite a lot of stuff that was going on both sides of my family. And, you know, so my mom's gone to see her, my brother, you know, so I feel it's important that, like, you know, in our energetic fields, we need to clear the stuff. No one tells you this, right? No one speaks.
No,
and mainstream doctors don't talk about it.
It would sound too weird, wasn't it? It was like, oh yeah, by the way, you know, this might be a past life thing that you brought in that you need to clear, and you just be there going, well, how do I do that?
Exactly.
But that, you know,
and
like you're talking about the doctor who's opening an integrative center. I mean, that's what we need more of. We need more places where, you know, all of these things are available as a package. You know, it's, I mean, it's a big thing. It's quite overwhelming, isn't it, to work out your own package and find what you need to do. And that's why I say to people, just start with one thing and see how you go with it, whether it's like hyperbaric oxygen, or start doing green juices or detox and bring in a bit of meditation, and you just add things in, and eventually things will just come into your field of like what, like you said about the TRE. It's just like, oh, I've not heard of that. Okay, that I'll give that a go. You don't have to do it all at once.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I think your book takes you through a lot of stages of stuff. And when I read it, I thought, oh my gosh, this is so what I went through, you know. And you almost feel like, in hindsight, and that's why it's good we're talking, because I had that talk as well. It's kind of like, if people knew this stuff at the beginning, it would have made the journey so much easier. But you can't find this information, and no one tells you. You spend your time stabbing in the dark, you know. And you and I, during lockdown, doing YouTube stuff and a book that someone recommends, then in that book you find something else, and then you listen to some YouTube thing and they mention someone else. And as soon as I had any more leads, it was like a spider web. I'd go, oh, let me read that book. Then I'd go on Audible and I'd download another book. And then I'd, like, you know, one book leads to another book. And then you realize that it's a whole web of connectivity of amazing people thinking similar stuff. But where do you find all this stuff? You know, and you and I spent years trying to find all the stuff in our journey. And it's kind of like, it's so brilliant that you've written your book, because if people read it, they can go, okay, cool. I'm also feeling that. I've also gone through that. Okay, I can also do that. Oh, and it's okay to feel sad about this, and it's okay to face death and think you won't see your kids grow up, you know? But there's more to it. You know, and it's almost like when I did my talk last week, I said, in hindsight, if I'd known half these things, I wouldn't have taken so long to get where I've got. But I needed to get through that path, and I needed to go through that stuff to grow. But you almost want to shortchange things and say to people, listen, do these things, do that. But it's no silver bullet, as you said. But just change your life to include these things. and you won't go there,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And it's like a friend of mine said, if you'd known that earlier, and to advise cancer patients to say, just take on 10 of these things. If it's not just Kelly Turner's, it's some out of your book, or it's like, you know, grounding yourself, or doing cold water swimming, or like just being in nature for starters, you
Yeah,
know.
absolutely.
And
And
no
that
one thinks those things are important.
the biggest thing for most people I speak to, they've said nature connection. You know, getting out in nature, going for a walk, just getting away from, you know, the doctor's phone calls, or the thoughts of, you know, the scan, or the people who are asking you how you are. It's just like, just go for a walk, be in nature, connect with the tree. Yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I also viewed mine as a bit of a journey and fun. And I got my chemo at the beginning. I had a friend come every time, and we laughed and we did things. And I was like, okay, get this done with, I'm out of here. And it was always like, always had fun things planned, and kind of didn't give it a huge amount of energy, because I was just thought, you know, it's my path, and then I'm going to move on, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But obviously I didn't change enough first time around. But you live and learn, you know. And it's kind of like the growth has happened since lockdown. You know, I can't believe how much stuff I've done, and going to Dr. Joe was a huge gift. I mean, I don't know how I got a ticket, because I went on and I set my phone, I registered. We were busy having dinner. I clanged on and I went, okay. And then I suddenly said to my husband, my gosh, it's getting through to the payment thing. Like, I've actually managed to get through. And then I said, and then quickly transferred the money, and I was like, and it says, congrats, you got a ticket. I was like, I just blew my mind. I was like, I'd been introduced to him through lockdown, whereas you'd known him before lockdown. I only came across him during lockdown. And then I started following him and reading all his books and everything. And then when I got the ticket, I was like, whoa! It was like, I couldn't believe it, you know.
Then we had to
It
wait
was,
2 years to go, didn't we?
no, I know. But it was, I realized that it had to happen in that sequence, because I was only ready for that stuff then, you
Yeah, and I
know.
was the same. I was the same. And actually, the original date that it was going to happen, I was in the middle of chemo, so I wouldn't have made it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I wouldn't have
exactly.
made
So
it.
it happens when it's meant to happen. And you kind of look back on these things, and like you and I were saying, it's a, you know, our cancers were gifts, and people go, are you crazy? Are
Yeah,
you crazy? Like, how can you think of putting your body through that and it was actually a gift? And I
gift
think
of
the
life,
biggest thing was,
isn't
yeah, and it made us change, right? Gave us a new perspective.
it? Mm.
And that you can't get unless you've had trauma, or you've had something. I mean, the gratitude I felt for things. And remember, like Joe says, you know, gratitude like the highest level of receivership. And when you gratitude, you have a feeling, you know, you feel grateful for something. And that feeling is at a cellular level, right? And you know how important that he's done all those studies about gratitude. And you just think just having gratitude is just a simple thing that you can do. And we would never have come across that kind of stuff, right?
No, no, exactly. It's just like, so, I mean, that was going to be my final question, is like, you know, what would you say that you could take away a gift from having cancer? And that's it. It's like the fact that it's given back in so many ways of changing your life, changing how you see the world, you know, the way we are, what we put in our bodies, not taking on the stress, you know, realizing that we don't have to have loads of money to enjoy life. It's not, that's it. Money isn't the
Exactly.
goal anymore. Life is the
No,
goal. You know, life is the goal.
exactly.
And
You're
I was
so right.
saying,
And to have joy.
yeah, someone said something to me about not having money or something. I was like, yeah, but I've got time, and time
That
to me
is so, that is so true.
is more valuable. Yeah.
That is so true. That's an excellent one. I hadn't thought of that. You've got time.
Yeah. I have
And I
time
think
with my children. I have
you,
time with them.
exactly. And it's quite interesting, because I see my friends nowadays go, oh, I've got to go and fetch the kids, and I've got to go on a tour with them, sports tour, and I've got to do this. And I'm like, I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so excited to go on a tour. I'm excited to fetch my children. I'm excited to like see them. And people go, yeah, I just want weekends away from my kids. And yes, I do want that. But when I have those moments with them, like you probably see them, you know, when they're sleeping, and you look at them and go, oh, you know, I went through times when, I mean, I went to see the one doctor who the first time on, and he said, well, look, Nix, you've got a 50% chance of not living past 10 years.
Wow.
And I drove home, and I said to my husband, I cried the whole way home. I said, I'm not going to see my kids grow. I'm not going to see them meet people. I'm not going to see what happens in their lives. I was just, all that was going through my head, and I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to be here for them. And I think you and I have been through that, and you kind of like, it makes you so much more appreciative for those times where other people find them horrible times, or they kind of go, oh, I've got to drive my kid here for 4 hours. I'm like, I'm delighted to be in the car with my kid for 4 hours.
Yeah. It's a
Just
time for
because I
connection,
can.
isn't it? It's
Time for
connecting.
connection. Exactly. And I think people wish that away, and I think in the baby years, you kind of like, it's going through the trenches. But I look back now and I go, I just want to be with my kids. I just want to be with family. I just want to live in the moment, and we forget that I actually have to stop and pinch myself sometimes when I'm looking at a sunset, or I'm looking at my kids sleeping, and I have to stop and go, it's that little moment that you go,
Yeah.
and you feel it, you feel that emotion, and you go, I'm so blessed to be still here. And we went to a party on Saturday night, and my husband and I got into this deep conversation, and we were chatting, and I said to him, I'm just so excited to still be alive. And a friend walked in and they said, what are you talking about? And I said, I'm just so excited. And like, they don't say that, right?
Yes.
You and I say that.
Yeah.
And they're like, you go, what do you mean? I'm like, you don't understand.
No.
And my husband understands. And it was interesting because in my talk, that was another thing I came across, is Kelly Turner did that movie called Heal.
Yeah.
Did you ever watch that on
Yeah.
Netflix? That was also a game changer for me.
Yeah.
And I remember all the stuff of Greg Braden. I don't know, a whole lot of speakers were on that, including Dr. Joe and stuff. And I remember watching it. I said to my husband, you've got to watch this. And he was on a separate journey next to me. And I was going on all my integrative and meditating. And he watched that movie one night, and he turned over. I was fast asleep, and he tapped me on the shoulder and he said, Nicki, wake up, wake up. And I woke up. I was like, what do you want? It's like 2 a.m. He says, I understand.
Oh.
He said, I understand. He said, I've just watched the Hill movie, and it's this and Dr. Joe and whatever. And I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. And we'd been functioning in separate worlds until then. And then he watched that and he went, okay, I get it.
I need to find the link for that and stick that in the below our talk so people can check that out. Yeah, I mean, it was great, that film. But yeah, thank you for reminding me of that one.
I think it was on Netflix, and then I think they've got it on Gaia now, so I don't think you can access it. But there's previews to it and snippets and stuff. But that introduced me to Kelly Turner stuff, and I remember thinking, wow, it's amazing. She's done amazing work to kind of open people up to stuff. If I hadn't seen her stuff, I would have been on a different path, I think.
Yeah. Well, you were meant to see it. You were meant to see it.
Exactly. But your book is amazing, absolutely amazing, and I think it's got so many nuggets in it that it's written from the heart.
Yeah, I actually had.
You wrote it.
I sent it to the woman who actually got me into Dr. Joe stuff specifically for cancer, and I sent her a copy of it, and she actually emailed me back and she said, this is better than Anita Majani's book, because it's written from the heart, and it's not overly edited, and it's not overly created to be a bestseller. Like, Hey took her book on, didn't they? And she just went, I just said I loved it, and I just took that as the highest praise ever, because I was like, absolutely. Oh my God, I love Anita Majani's book. So yeah.
No, but I think yours was about you. I mean, I'm just paging through it now. Little things you wrote about things, and you just spoke in your own words. You didn't put it in highfalutin English, and you just said, I felt like this, and I needed more of that. And there's a picture of you and your child, and then there's a picture. You just put in bits that were just so amazing. And when I read it, I thought, oh my God, that's kind of so much of what I went through. But you kind of realize there's so many people going through this, and you just, So I think it's a real comfort for people to know that if they read this, they'll feel less fear, less worried about stuff, not alone. There's lots of people going through the same stuff, and there's hope, right?
Yeah, well, that's it, and that's why I'm doing these videos for people, because I want people to really grasp onto that hope. There's you told that you only had a certain amount of time to live, and here you are, looking amazing, shining, living your life. Same for me. It's just like, you know what, miracles happen, and you can beat those odds. You don't have to take on those numbers, and you don't have to take on those years. It's like, just make a decision to live life, and enjoy it. Yeah. That's
Exactly.
a good place to end, I think.
Oh, so divine to chat and to just touch base about things. And
So much,
yeah, I think your book's amazing, and I'm going to get some more copies to pass on to people down here, definitely.
Brilliant.
But yeah, I think you've done an amazing job of it, and we must always keep in touch, and we do, with bits and pieces that we found out, and we're still growing together. We're growing with stuff that we found and kind of connected with, which is amazing. And I mean, I'm so far down here and you so far up there, but it means nothing,
Exactly.
no time.
Time doesn't exist.
Exactly. So yeah.
Oh,
Lots of love, and thanks for the lovely chat.